Hello, children. It's Mr. Harrell again, and I want to tell you part 4 of the unbelievable history of Thanksgiving. This one is titled Howdy, Neighbor. So let's catch up. The Pilgrims sailed to America from England to find religious freedom. When they arrived, it was in the middle of the winter, and half of them died from starvation or freezing. It was so bad that the survivors were about to sail back to England. And then something changed. They made a new friend. A Native American man named Squanto visited their village. He knew they had a rough winter and he offered to help. Now, Squanto specifically offered to help them learn how to not die so much, and most of the pilgrims were eager to take him up on that. And because he spoke English, they could understand him, and they trusted him because there were other Native Americans around there, but they didn't speak English, so there was a language barrier between the pilgrims and the Native Americans. So that spring, Squanto taught the pilgrims many things. He taught them how to grow crops like corn. He taught them good areas to go hunting. And by having that, it helped them to find food and clothing because many of the animals that they hunted, they were able to turn into articles of clothing. He also taught them plants they could use for medicine, and more importantly, plants that were poisonous and that they shouldn't try to use. And he helped them communicate with other Native Americans. Again, Squanto spoke English and he spoke the language that the Native Americans did. This made the Pilgrims feel safe and, very importantly, it gave them trading partners. So here's some real talk, guys. Without Squanto's help, the Pilgrims would not have survived another winter. They weren't bad people, but they really did not know what they were doing. And it was only through Squanto's help that they were able to learn how to live and how to survive. Well, because of that, they planted corn that Squanto taught them how to plant in the spring, and then it grew in the summer, and then they picked it in the fall. And when you pick crops, that's called a harvest. And when they had a good harvest that fall, the Pilgrims had a feast and invited the Native Americans to celebrate with them. This is thought of today as the first Thanksgiving. So it was a special event. But you know what's even more special? What? Squanto didn't have to help them at all. In fact, if Squanto had treated these white people, because the Pilgrims were white people from Europe, if Squanto had treated these white people the way different white people had treated him, it would have been another long winter for the Pilgrims. And that is something that they were scared to deal with. Now, we'll talk about Squanto's past tomorrow. For now, I want to describe what we know about Squanto so far. So we're going to use a bubble map to describe, and we are going to title it Squanto. Now, when we describe somebody, we use adjectives, and that means that it will work with the sentence stem, Squanto is very. So we learned today that Squanto helped the Pilgrims a lot, but it would not make a lick of sense for us to say Squanto is very helped the Pilgrims. However, it would make sense if we said Squanto is very helpful. What I want you guys to do is have a discussion and talk about other adjectives you can use to describe Squanto and talk about the evidence that you just learned about that makes you describe Squanto this way. And tomorrow we'll talk about Squanto's past and continue the unbelievable story of Thanksgiving.